How long will it take for me to make another Twilight video? Hello and welcome back to rewatching the Twilight series as an adult who's been through therapy and can now see how villainous all the male characters, except for Charlie, were. The jury's out on this one a little bit. The streets have been saying that New Moon is the worst film in the Twilight series. And while that may be true, and I may also be dressed like a librarian, I think that New Moon gets a little too much shit. Is it really the worst one? Because I feel like Breaking Dawn Part 2 has some things to say. First of all, in this movie, we use a completely different filter. Instead of the blue filter that we had all over Twilight, we use more of a sepia filter now. It's giving us the Prince of Persia filter to give us kind of a more desert feel. I do think that New Moon serves a very specific purpose in the series. It is for the point of introducing Jacob as a character. New Moon plays an integral part of establishing the love triangle. We've got Eddie, we got Bella, and we got Jakey Boy. And this movie is time for Jakey Boy to shine. It's time to bring in the confusion of who's she gonna choose, Team Edward or Team Jacob. And the continuation of every man in her life constantly speaking over her and making decisions for her like she's not a completely sentient human being. New Moon begins with a beautiful shot of the moon, a moon that is in fact pretty old, but whatever. The movie starts off in typical Twilight fashion, by attacking the self-worth of a young woman. Bella's having a dream where she's looking ahead of her and she's seeing her grandmother. She walks up to approach her only to realize that she's looking in a mirror, and she's looking at herself as her grandmother. And for some context, New Moon starts out on her 18th birthday. So the purpose of this nightmare is that she's freaking out about getting older and aging at 18, because she doesn't want to be older than her 100-year-old boyfriend. Charlie comes in to give her her birthday present and also to mess with her, and tells her that he sees gray hairs popping up in her head.
Is that a gray hair?
We like to make fun of TikTok and Gen Z about them being afraid of getting older, but Twilight takes the cake on this one. Bella was freaking out about even turning 20.
You must fear nothing more than the passage of time.
Her mom and dad coordinated for her birthday to get her a camera and a photo album so that she could take a bunch of pictures of her friends to remember high school.
You guys.
She gets to school to take pictures and nobody seems to know that it's her birthday, which is kind of sad, but also not surprising. She does absolutely nothing really to hang out with or spend time with her friends. You have to spend time with your friends for them to know things about you. They're trying to have a conversation, but then of course, Eddie Boy pulls in, so they just all leave. Girl, that is such a red flag. Don't you think it's a little weird that all of your friends literally flee when your boyfriend shows up? New Moon definitely does a good job of enforcing how insufferable they are though. Anyways, what I really love about New Moon is that I feel like we get into the meat and potatoes of this film very quickly. Because guess who also came to tell Bella happy birthday? Jakey Boy. And Jakey Boy comes to give her a gift. Of course, as well, Edward does not speak to him or greet him at all. Rewatching these movies has changed my perspective of the Cullens the most of any character. Especially Edward. Edward is
So rude.
This guy sucks. Maybe it's just my deeply embedded Southern hospitality, but I can't stand him. Then once they finally leave the parking lot and go inside, Alice and Jasper have a gift for her as well.
Happy birthday!
And invite her to a surprise party later. It's gonna be a party with vampies. There's also a lot of moments in this scene that are very foreshadowy. For example, there's a huge painting on the wall of Carlisle back when he was in the Volturi, which is kind of foreshadowy because they're gonna end up being a big part of this story. Edward does describe the Volturi as more royalty, but given that they actually do something and enforce laws, I'd say they're more like a police force, the VPD. They claim to have a lot of laws and rules, but for the most part, it seems like the only real rule that they care about is making sure that their existence stays a secret. They are so powerful and so much stronger than humans. I kind of did start to wonder, why would it actually matter if humans knew? Who cares if they know? However, this next scene is also a very integral part of the Twilight cinematic universe. Potentially more important than the baseball scene. As we established, it is her birthday and she's given one of her gifts to open. And Bella, being the ever-living klutz that she is, gives herself the deepest paper cut that I've ever seen. Also, a side note, the gift that gave her the cut was one from Carlisle and Esme made the comment that you've been looking kind of pale lately.
Yes, I've been looking kind of pale lately.
Are you for real?
Bitch, that's rich coming from you. However, as we all know, Jasper is the newest to this vampy vamp life. And he's had the hardest time so far with the whole vegetarian diet that they're on. So this drop of blood does it for him, all right? Homie loses it. Bro was starving. He launches at Bella and Edward pushes her back and out of the way. However, he pushes her so aggressively that she ends up just getting huge gashes all over her arm from flying into the shelf that had like vases and glasses on it, and then ends up gushing blood all down her arm. And then for some reason they decided to just give us like the weirdest shot of all time, which is all of them just standing around her and staring at her. Like, God, this family's creepy. And the look Edward gives her is as if he's upset at her or like annoyed, almost kind of disgusted. Carlisle, in all his god complex glory, sends everyone out so that he can stitch her up and clean everything up. And I do believe this is the first time in the movies Carlisle and Bella have a real one-on-one. And they get into a little bit of his past and how he's always wanted to help people. And this is where we kind of start seeing a few drops of Miss Stephanie's Mormonism coming in. We see the Christianity trying to sneak in a little bit because we start having conversations about souls and eternal damnation. The messaging is clear, which also explains to Bella why Edward has a lot of apprehension about changing her. He's worried about saving her soul. Everyone who went to Catholic school felt that, all right?
We know what's going on here.
However, Bella's prepared to use this information to her advantage. She wants to use this whole thing to encourage Edward to just change her. Cause like, hey, we can't keep ignoring this human elephant in the room. And this conversation comes up on their drive home while he's taking Bella back to Charlie's. However, Bella misread the room or the truck. That's not where Eddie's head was going because he really does not want to change her. And after this whole ordeal, Edward, our poster boy for avoidant attachment style, is gone for a couple of days. Eventually, he does return though and goes straight to Bella's house so that they can have a very important conversation. We go back into the forest to have this conversation. Charlie's not home. Why can't we just have this conversation in the house? Edward starts by saying that him and his family need to relocate. Carlisle's age is starting to get suspicious because he's supposed to be 10 years older than he says he is. And he worries that people are starting to notice. Starting to know. Y'all have been noticed, I promise. Friendly reminder that Carlisle was changed at 23. Supposedly, he also went through the entirety of medical school. So I don't know exactly how old he's been lying to say that he is, but I think it would be reasonable for him to be in his late 30s. And Bella, the ride or die that she is ready. She's preparing what she needs to say to Charlie again so that she can follow Edward. Bella needs to win the award for world's worst daughter. How could you be so ready and willing to put your dad through that again? And it's not even necessary. It would be so easy for them to have a long distance relationship. He could very well stay in that house and not be seen by anyone in the town ever and just sneak into Bella's house every night. She wouldn't need to move with him for them to be in a relationship. However, he makes it clear that he didn't include Bella in those plans to move. He's leaving her. And he employs the same method that she did when she was leaving Charlie in Twilight. He just cuts so deep at her biggest insecurity that he doesn't want her.
You don't want me?
No.
He kisses her on the head and says,
Bye, bitch.
and then is gone. She tries to run after him before she collapses and just curls into a ball on the forest floor. And as of right now, I'm a Bella sympathizer, all right? I'm on her side. This was crazy. Edward was way too aggressive with this. Of course, as well, Charlie is freaking out because Bella didn't come home. So a bunch of people from the reserve are out there searching for her. And Charlie is like freaking out, but like not freaking out enough for my liking. Because if you remember in the last movie, as far as he's concerned, there's a wild animal / serial killer in these woods. Like, Charlie, how many times do I have to remind you you're a cop? Seemingly the town's only cop. And also animal control. Girl, grab your gun and get out there. Stand on your business. Anyway, Sam, the wolfie leader, finds her and brings her back to Charlie. And this is when we get to experience Bella going through grief. She's trying to get over Edward and honestly, the most aggressive breakup of all time. And we get that beautiful scene of the circle panning around her with the song playing, all the possibilities. She's also sending a ton of emails to Alice and they're just bouncing. Why couldn't they stay in touch? How can they be a threat via email? Her depression as well caused her to have some really horrible nightmares. Like to the point that she was waking up screaming in the middle of the night. And then after this has been supposedly going on for a couple months, Charlie finally puts his foot down. He tells her that, hey, maybe you just need to leave Forks and go back and live with your mom. Of course, she doesn't want to do that because I think she's holding on hope that they'll come back. But he just basically says, you need to be processing this better.
It's just not normal, this behavior. Quite frankly, it's scaring the hell out of me.
So she decides to hang out with our girl, Jessica. Jessica's back, y'all. And I feel like in this story, Stephanie got more aggressive with trying to write her as like a bad guy, like being mean and rude to Bella. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am Team Jessica. You'll never make me hate her, Steph. So Bella told her that they were going to shop, but then they ended up just going out to see a movie that Jessica didn't really want to see. So she's annoyed, and rightfully so. Do I think Jessica could be more sympathetic? Totally. But I also can completely understand why she just feels really weird about hanging out with Bella, all right? I get it. We have to remember that these characters are supposed to be in high school, so the emotional maturity that you're looking for here is just not gonna happen. And while they're walking out of the theater, about to go home, she looks over at like a group of biker people and has her first vision of Edward. These visions are hallucinations that she's having every time she's in any situation that is kind of dangerous. She basically sees him pop up and tell her not to do something reckless and stupid. And this becomes like Bella's own personal brand of heroin. As soon as she finds out that she has this power, she will not stop doing things to see that vision. So just like any sane person would, she leaves Jessica and walks closer to the biker gang, gets on the bike, and rides off with one of them so that she can see the vision again. Apparently, no one has ever just told her about shrooms. She does see Edward, but at some point comes back to her senses and asks the guy to take her back. Place yourself in this situation. You're out with a friend that you barely even like, and then she does some shit like this. Jessica is obviously super upset when Bella comes back to her, and they leave.
I was about to end up in an FBI interview room like some lame TV show.
So in an attempt to try and get closer to her friends, she figures out a way to build up her friendship with Jake. She knows that Jake is a really good mechanic, so she finds some bikes and then takes it down to his place so they can work on fixing it up together. And that's where we get the most iconic scene in all of Twilight history. Bella, where the hell have you been, Loca?
Where the hell have you been, Loca?
Now, obviously, the purpose of these bikes is her new adrenaline junkie era, so that she can do reckless things to try and see Edward. And this is an important part of the Twilight Saga to savor, because this is actually the only time that Jacob is even remotely likable. He becomes pretty awful very quickly after this. So they're hanging out, they're getting to know each other, and they're fixing the bikes. And once the bikes are finally done, it's time to go out and ride them suckers. And this is where Jacob expresses some worry about the intentions that Bella had when she came to him with the bikes.
Maybe if I was smart, I would have dragged out the rebuild a bit.
He's worried that now that they're done, she's not going to want to hang out with him anymore. But she assures him that she would have just found something else to do and they would still hang out. While they're driving to somewhere that they can go to actually test drive the bikes, we see Sam and the rest of the wolf pack going cliff diving. This is important because this is when Bella learns about cliff diving. That's also when Jake kind of gives us a rundown about their cult and how he's uncomfortable about the attention that he gets from them.
Sam keeps giving me this look, like he's waiting for me or something.
So they finally get to the place where they can ride the bikes. He gives Bella a quick rundown on how to ride it, and as soon as she gets on that sucker, she starts seeing him. She starts hearing them voices. Get off. You're being really dumb. Don't do this, stupid. She of course gets distracted by her visions, flies off the bike, and hits her head. Jake comes over to check on her, obviously annoyed by her recklessness.
Are you trying to get yourself killed?
And he takes off his shirt to dab up the blood on her head, and she says that he's kind of beautiful. And the day kind of ends there. They pack it up and go home. And that little comment right there was the beginning of the end for Jacob. You gotta be careful with just complimenting. It can send a message you might not have intended it to send just because they're not really used to getting compliments. And that's exactly, I think, what happened with Bella and Jacob. Anyways, back at school, Bella decides to rejoin her friends, which is nice.
She's trying.
Mike, in his infinite wisdom, decides to take this opportunity to ask her out immediately.
So, Bella's back?
Mike invites her out to see a movie, a romance movie, and she says
No.
she wants to see Face Punch, like an action movie, and she wants to make it a group thing with all of our friends. He begrudgingly agrees to that, and Jess also begrudgingly agrees because she doesn't want to go.
Movie night with Bella.
Once they all actually go to the movie though, apparently some stomach bug is going around and no one can make it except for Mike and Jake, who she also invited. They go into the movie and both of them spend the whole film with their hands up just in case Bella wants to hold them, until Mike starts feeling super sick too and needs to run out. They follow him out and sit in like the front of the theater, and this is when Jake kind of shoots his shot, which is expected to happen within 24 to 48 hours of complimenting a man. And him and Bella do have a little bit of a romantic moment, but she does make it clear that she loves him as a friend. And this is where Jake kind of starts to lose his likability, because from here on out, he just absolutely will not accept that. He does not take no for an answer. He literally cannot comprehend platonic love. And I genuinely believe that the entire thesis of why he feels like she's in love with him is the compliment. I really do feel like if she just didn't say that, they'd be fine. He tells her that he's a patient man and he'll wait for her to feel ready. And she admits that she wants him to just because she wants him to stick around, but that she's just not into him like that. Mike eventually does come out of the bathroom and he is very sick.
I need to go home.
And Jake gets like irrationally angry with him about it.
You want me to put
You in the hospital?
Bella also puts her hand on him and realizes that he's
Also burning up.
and he just decides to leave. And they all follow suit. And now we get to experience Jake's first disappearing act. And this was another reason that solidified me as a Bella sympathizer. I feel awful for her. Why is everyone just leaving her? She's not that bad. She tries calling him and checking in on him. And of all the things that his dad could say is wrong with him, he keeps saying that he has mono. What happened to just the flu or the stomach bug that was going around? So Bella's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go check on him. And once she gets there, ooh baby, we got a brand new Jake. Cut all his hair off. He has a tattoo now. And he just got huge. He's big, he's buff, he's also big into jorts now. And Jake basically does the same thing to her that Edward did. He's being really mean and really aggressive to her to get her basically to just leave him alone. He reveals to her that he knows about the Cullens and knows about Bella's relationship, and he's upset that she's been lying to everyone about it.
You've been lying to everyone, but you can't lie to me.
And obviously the audience, we have the context that the reason he's acting so weird is because he's gone through his transformation. He's now a wolfy wolf. But he can't tell Bella that again. But she decides to go on a hike to the meadow to try and reminisce about Edward and the time they've spent together. Like, girl,
Stay inside.
she goes to the meadow and it looks super different. It kind of looks like it's been burnt, but it could also just be that it is fall. But while she's up there, she sees a friend. Our favorite, and so far only, black vampire. I think also only one of 2 black people. And lucky for her, she does have a hallucination. She does get to see him for a little bit because she is in a very compromised situation right now. She tries to have a conversation with Laurent and talk him out of eating her, but he explains to her that Victoria is still looking for her, and frankly, he's doing her a service by wrapping this up for her quickly because Victoria doesn't want her to go that easy. And this part also just kind of made me really hate Edward even more. He made her such a target in the vampire world and then actually left her alone. He is a vampire, and sometimes I think that he forgets that. He could have said that he was leaving and then not actually leave so that he could at least stay there to protect her after putting a massive target on her back.
After all, how much could you mean to him? He left you here unprotected.
So Laurent is just about ready to enact his favor to Bella when we hear a rustling in the brush. And here comes the wolves. This is honestly the first time I think that we get a good look at the wolves, and they are stunning. I love how they look, to be honest. They just look like beautiful mahogany brown German shepherds. Bella comes to her senses, runs out of the woods, and the first thing she does is snitch. All of a sudden, we're not good at keeping secrets, huh?
In the woods, they're not bears.
They're wolves.
So Charlie, as a cop usually does, picks up his gun and says to Harry, "Are you ready to go hunt for some wolves?" Later that night as well, Jake also finally comes to have a conversation with Bella. And he, much like Edward, flies through the window. The difference though with him is that he actually throws rocks at the window to try and get her attention rather than just breaking and entering. So +1 point for knocking before you enter someone's home. Once he's in, he has a conversation and explains that he can't tell her what's going on with him, but she kind of already knows. See, back when he told her the story about the coal ones on La Push Beach, he did mention that the Quileutes are descendant from wolves. But of course, at the time, she didn't really pay attention to that detail. She ends up telling him, "Hey Jake, let's just get out of here.
Let's just run away.
Go somewhere hot and tropical. But he explains that he can't really leave like that, but he just wants her to remember the story. Her wheels start turning and she does remember the story and the part about the wolves. However, she thinks that the wolves are the ones that are doing the killing. She thinks that the wolves are bad, which is also confusing because she knows that it was the Vampy Vamps who were killing people. However, once she has it figured out, kind of, she goes back down to Jake's house and wants to talk to him. She kind of forces herself into the house and finds Jake sleeping, so she leaves to not wake him up. However, while she's out there, she confronts Paul and a bunch of the other wolves and tells them,
What did you do? Hey, what did you do to him? Easy. He didn't want this.
she's so angry that she even slaps Paul. He gets so angry that he just phases into a wolf in front of her. She's obviously kind of losing her mind and she starts to run. Jake, obviously hearing the fighting, runs out, jumps over Bella and phases himself, and then they start fighting. There's also a very lovely shot of them fighting where they hit over the camera. And I just kind of really love that detail in the movie. The rest of the wolves get her out of there and just wait for them to fight it out and take her back to Emily's house. They start eating. She learns a little bit about the wolves. She sees the scars on Emily's face that were a result of Sam accidentally phasing in front of her. And she learns about the alphas and alphas' orders and all that kind of stuff. Just throw some podcast mics in the mix and we got ourselves a show here. Once Jake is done with his little scuffle, he comes back to the house to get Bella and they have a little conversation. He explains that the only things that wolves kill are vampires. They're not the bad guys here. They just get blamed for what the vampires are doing, basically. Where have we heard that one before? And even if they were, that's kind of hypocritical for Bella, all right? Every single Cullen has killed a person. And now we have a bunch of things that are all happening at once. We have Charlie out in the woods with Harry hunting for this animal, as a good cop does. Victoria is lurking around the area and I'm not sure why. Victoria ends up jumping out of the tree and facing Harry. A wolf flies by to get her before she hurts Harry. Harry ended up having a heart attack. So Charlie, who is the town animal control and cop, now has to become the town doctor because Carlisle is gone. And at this same moment, Bella is also deciding to go cliff diving. So she drives up to the exact place that the wolves were doing it and jumps off. She does see Edward, she does hallucinate, but the current is very strong. And Victoria, who's just killed Harry now by accident, is now in the water looking for Bella Girl. She sees Victoria in the water and starts swimming away and ends up hitting her head on the rocks behind her. But Jake manages to save Bella, give her some CPR, and bring her right back to life. He tells her about what happened with Harry, picks her up and cleans her up so that he can take her home and then go back to the clear waters. On the drive home though, Bella and Jake get a little cozy. And in this moment, I see it. I see them as a couple. He had me at this part, all right? I was team Jake. Jake and Bella sitting in a tree. Kissin. Psych. That's not gonna happen. Because as soon as they get back to the house, Jake smells a vamp in the area.
There's a vampire.
How you know?
Bella looks around and realizes that that's Carlisle's car. The Cullens are back, baby. She walks into the house and realizes that it is Alice. Now, the reason why she's back is because she saw Bella cliff diving and thought that she was trying to exit. And she says something so true and so apt for Bella, which is,
I have never met anyone more prone to life-threatening idiocy.
Then Jake comes in to check on her and Alice starts putting the pieces together. She realizes that the reason why she didn't see Bella get saved is because she's been hanging around wolves.
I can't see past you and your pack of mutts.
She also calls the wolves a pack of mutts. And I will say, something that has always rubbed me the wrong way is the way that the Cullens talk about the wolves. Because it is racist. What reason do the Cullens have to hate the wolves, other than the fact that they are wolves? The wolves are completely justified in how they feel about vampires, because vampires have killed them. They act very high and mighty above the wolves, considering that them killing humans is the only reason why wolves even exist. It was nature's response to them, an invasive species. It's a bit of mystical discrimination or something. Alice steps out to give them a moment and says she'll be back as soon as you put the dog out. Jake's intention is to kind of finish what they started in the car. However, as they're getting close, yet again, there's a disruption. The phone rings and someone asks for Charlie. And Jake responds, he's not here right now.
He's arranging a funeral.
Jake knew it was Eddie Boy on that line. Bella's upset that Jake didn't give her the phone, and now he's kind of set off a chain reaction of things that are about to happen. Rosalie has apparently told Edward why Alice left. So now Edward is under the impression that Charlie is planning Bella's funeral. So in typical melodramatic Eddie fashion, he's decided that now he also has to exit because a world without Bella, much like the one he is already living because he is gone, isn't one worth living. Edward's plan is to head to Italy. That's where the Volturi is. They're having a festival that's coming up, meaning that there's going to be a lot of people out and about. Also, the festival that was going on is the St. Marcus's Day festival, which was to celebrate a guy who ran all the vampires out of town. And he intends to essentially go outside and expose himself to the humans so that they'll kill him.
End him.
As they're getting ready to leave, obviously Jake begs her to stay, but you know, she's not gonna stay. She's gotta go save her mans. Off they are on a beautiful vacation to Italy. Alice is able to drive her up as close as possible to the Volturi's castle, but there's too many people on the road for her to drive all the way. So Bella gets out of the car and rushes through the crowd full of people dressed in all red. She basically makes it to him in the nick of time to stop him from exposing himself to the world. They have a beautiful moment reuniting. He admitted that he lied and he didn't mean anything that he said. He just needed her to let him go. However, it's not over yet. The Volturi still want to have a little chat with Eddie Boy. Because even though he didn't end up exposing himself to the humans, he is still breaking a rule with Bella. She is a human who knows all about them. So now that we're actually here with the Volturi, I'm just gonna go over a quick little family tree with y'all of the Volturi, just so that you're caught up. Because frankly, I barely remember them myself. So we have Aro, who's able to read your mind through holding your hand in a really uncomfortable and intimate way. We have Jane, who can cause pain with her mind. We have Alec, her twin brother, who causes sensory deprivation. You basically lose all of your senses. We have Caius with the fuck-ass Bob. And we have Marcus, who hates every second of his existence. And we have Felix, who's like strong. And the whole conversation with the Volturi is just kind of weird and uncomfortable. It's Aro understanding Eddie and Bella's love, testing out if any of their powers can work on Bella, and eventually they start fighting, and it seems like the plan is to kill Edward because he still did break a rule. Bella, obviously losing her mind, says, listen, take me, but she's ready to sacrifice her life for his. That really kind of touches Aro's heart, and he decides to give them a chance. Alice does show him a future where Bella is a vampire because she decided that she's going to be the one to change her. It's crazy how Eddie was literally ready to die in this moment, then just decide to change her. He's actually so dumb. But we wrap this all up, Aro decides to give them a second chance, and they skedaddle. While they're leaving, a bunch of humans, though, are coming into the castle on some kind of a tour. And that's when we find out that they let people in to these tours to eat them. But I don't understand how no one has noticed that yet. You're telling me that hundreds of people come into this building and never come out, and not a single person is noticing that? While they're leaving, you can hear the screams. You basically hear them immediately start eating them. No one outside is hearing this? Do none of these people have friends and family who know where they were last? So the movie's wrapping up. We're back in Forks now, and we are trying to rekindle what Edward and Bella once had. Obviously, Charlie is pissed because Bella did in fact just leave and disappear again. And Edward is trying to work out if Bella will ever be able to forgive him for what he did. And of course she would, bruh. She is so down bad. Charlie does forgive her and says she's grounded, but that's only like 4 to 5 business days because he takes soft parenting to a different level. And while Eddie's asking her to forgive him, he basically says that if I'm not with you, I have no reason to stay alive. So he's kind of threatening her by saying he will unalive if she doesn't take him back. Bella says, listen, you just made a promise to basically vampire royalty that you're going to do this. This isn't just about my life anymore. You have to save your own and your family's too. And he's still being incredibly stubborn about it. So Bella says, you know what? This is America. We live in a democracy and we're gonna put this to a vote. So we're back in the living room, the same living room that this whole drama started in. She's basically asking the family to vote yes or no, should I change? Pretty much everyone except Rosalie and Edward say yes.
Which leaves me no choice. I won't lose my son.
And to close out the movie, we finally have the official formation of our interspecies love triangle. Edward and Bella go to meet Jacob in the middle of the woods, as we do in this movie. We always be meeting in the woods. And Edward wants to thank Jacob, obviously, for taking care of Bella when he was away. But he makes it clear that you don't gotta worry about that anymore, all right? Daddy's home, and he's standing on business this time. He's not going anywhere. And it seems like Jacob takes that as a challenge. He reminds them that changing Bella does in fact break the treaty. And in order to try and convince him to like relax, Bella kind of has a little bit of a fuckboy moment. She walks up to him like biting her lips and twirling her hair like,
Jake,
come on.
it's me.
But she basically asks him to not make her choose between them because she's gonna choose him. She always has.
Don't make me choose. It's always been him.
And Edward is kind of over it. He wants to leave. And Jacob says, hey, let her talk. Why you gotta pull her away? They kind of get into a little scuffle and Jake phases into the room. Bella jumps between them to stop a fight and Jake just kind of runs off into the woods. And my favorite thing about Edward is no matter what, he's gonna find a way to manipulate, to girl boss, gatekeep, and gaslight. And he says, you know what? I will be the one to change you under one condition.
Marry me, Bella.
And Bella says, and that, folks, is the millennial fear of commitment here to end the movie. She's not concerned of a lifetime of being immortal, but marriage? That's a little spooky. And that was New Moon. And New Moon is in fact my least favorite book, but not my least favorite movie. Because a lot of parts of it are annoying, but it is such an important part of the story that I can't hate it. And honestly, they did Bella so dirty. I feel like this is a good way to finally feel sympathetic towards her as a main character. R.I.P. to Harry Clearwater. I definitely think this one is the only movie in the series that is better than the books. And despite the fact that I do still think both of them are super toxic, I do think that Edward is the lesser of two evils between the both of them. Because Jake, he gets so much worse. But honestly, the only real answer is Team Charlie. Now, what is the point of this video? And what is the wrap up? German Shepherd representation matters. And that, my friends, is the video me and my entire little bunch back here are grateful that you watched. If you are or were a twihard, I would love to hear your feelings about New Moon, both the film and the book. If you've never watched it, then I hope that this series gives you a good look into what these films really were. And also, if you've made it to the end of this video, because I know it's going to be pretty long, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.